So we are live. Hold on, I'm doing it on Instagram. It's not working. Oh, here we go. Sweet. Hey, we're live.
Awesome. Hey, are you hope people?
Hope, love, compassion. My lighting's off, but that's all right. Hey, everyone. How are you today? I'm here with my beloved friend Scarlett, a champion of love around the world. And yeah, grateful to be here today with all and with Scarlett.
Me too. Grateful to have you as a friend and as that person that I can call and just that I know will listen, but also that I know will only allow me to go on for so long, and you will shift the conversation into problem solving. And I've really grown to appreciate that. Everyone needs a friend like that. You've got friends that you can call and you can complain to, and that's all that the conversation is. But to have a friend that goes, okay, I think I got it, and now let's shift. But I don't want to shift. I want to keep going. I didn't tell you the whole thing. I didn't tell you the next conversation. No, let's shift because I got enough of it, and let's figure this out. And I'm gonna figure it out with you. How beautiful is that?
Yeah, that's amazing. And I will also say that there's now plenty of research that venting is actually very harmful for you, for the venter and the ventee.
Yeah, because it just perpetuates the cycle of pain.
It does, yeah. And it's great to honor and express pain and, get our we don't want to hide from our anger or fear or sadness. And yet if we get stuck in that and then just kind of complain and go on and on, it's just very toxic. And I used to love to do that so much. So,
what we focus on grows, right?
Yes, absolutely. So for those of you that don't know, I'm Catherine and I study hope. I call myself a hope scientist because I've been researching it and publishing research on it around the world and create programming to teach all how to hope, that it's a measurable, teachable skill. And I called you today, Scarlett, a love scientist because Scarlett is the most amazing human, lost her son in the Sandy Hook school shooting, Jesse, and turn that into a mission to ensure all know how to love. Like how we love. How do we love after something like that happens? How do we choose love and teach us love as a choice? And so I'm really grateful. And so we're doing work. We have another champion of compassion, that Pato Banton, that will be joining us. We're going to start a monthly show and have a monthly discussion on love, hope, and compassion, or I should say love, compassion, and hope. Because they're all three measurable and they are teachable skills, and you can learn how to cultivate all of them. And they are not necessarily inherent. And when hard things happen, it's hard to be loving. It's hard to be hopeful. It's hard to be compassionate. So anyway, super grateful. Hi, Scarlett.
It's interesting. It takes effort. It takes mindful awareness, and it takes effort to actually show up in life. Earlier, Catherine and I were talking about, like life is tough and life has pain. And actually, pain is probably more prevalent in people's lives than joy. I think we have micro moments of joy. But here's the interesting thing. You cannot feel joy unless you feel pain. You numb the pain and you numb the joy. And of course, we all want joy and happiness. So that means that we have to learn how to move through some painful events. And I also wanted to say, you're also the kind of friend that so we have check-ins. We're kind of accountability buddies, and Monday mornings. I remember a Monday morning, and it wasn't necessarily, I always wake up grateful, but we had a conversation. At the end of the conversation, you said, what can I do for you this week to lift the load or something like that? And I literally just started crying because that was such a kind offer. And who actually says that to you? I mean, I don't know, maybe your listeners have a lot of people that are offering all kinds of help all throughout the week, but I don't. And I just thought, wow, what an offer. I appreciated it so much. And that's the kind of friend you are. And I think that's an important thing to think about, the kind of people that we surround ourselves with, the quality of people, meaning, are they hopeful? Are they loving? Are they compassionate? Because it does matter to us. And we want to surround ourselves with models of people that lift us up rather than us constantly having to lift others up.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And or at least are working towards that, right? Like we're not perfect. Like I'm not like you don't just become hopeful. Like every day.
I think you're pretty perfect.
You're awesome. And you don't just become loving. Like you have to learn how to I was talking to someone today that had his friend was killed in Chicago. And he's in college, and a horrific random shooting, and processing it and moving through emotions on it. And love is and compassion, and they're hard choices, and they it's not just automatic, and we go through a lot to try to get to a place where we can, but we know through the science that like it's healthier to move to compassion, to love, and in order to create kind of a better humanity.
Well, I mean, you're in your authentic power when you choose love and compassion. Otherwise, when you're reacting out of hatred, revenge, even anger. I mean, anger is natural, but prolonged anger, that is not authentic power. That is maybe a false sense of power, but it's actually weakness. And to have authentic power is when you exhibit self-control, and you are thoughtfully responding from the highest and best part of yourself. And you said something really interesting that I didn't know actually before. And I just learned maybe, I don't know, a few years ago, but it's kind of like one of those aha moments. And it's a life changer, that we have eye for eye brains. I mean, like an eye for an eye is, what some people think is justice. You hurt me, I'm going to hurt you back. Actually, that's how our brains are wired, which is so fascinating to me. And you've heard this saying, an eye for an eye makes the whole world blind. But in actuality, that is how we're wired to react. I go into students' classrooms. It's so interesting. And I'm like, well, when somebody hurts you, what does your brain tell you to do? Do it for them. Oh, really? Okay. So what happens when you do that? I get in trouble. Oh, well, what else happens? Oh, they get angry at me too. And so interesting. So and I say, well, then that perpetuates the cycle of pain, and it might even exacerbate it.
Yeah.
But when we pause and thoughtfully respond and use our hope skills, and it takes skills. Think about it, and they're the same as a kid and as an adult.
Yeah, the regulation skills.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, when we act in anger, we now know that we make horrible decisions. We're in our reptilian brain, so we're making really bad decisions when we act in that state of anger. It's like you want to listen to the anger, and you want to hear what the anger is telling you, and you want to feel the anger and experience it. So, I used to avoid anger. It's actually helpful, and you learn about boundaries with anger. But when you act from that state, it's like I was in a recovery meeting today, and I'm in recovery, so I'm not anonymous about my recovery because I'm really proud of it. So it's been over 21 years.
That's amazing. And I think you should be so proud. And I'm so glad that you're talking about it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And we were talking about serenity. And I was sharing a story about how meditation, I was in my 30s when I got into recovery, and they're like, you should meditate. Meditation's so good. And I couldn't sit still. I couldn't sit still with my mind. My thoughts, and like, I needed to move all the time, and super ADHD diagnosed all the things. Anyway, so they said, well, you really should. And when I moved to Ann Arbor, I would live next to a Buddhist center, and they had, Buddhist group meditations. And I'm like, maybe I'll try it in a group. And so I went to this group meditation class, and I sat down, and they're all so proper, and they're on their meditation mat, and everyone's quiet. And I know, and nobody moves an inch, and there's like no sneeze, nothing.
And that's the way to do it, because then you can't either, right? You don't have a choice.
That is exactly right. So I'm sitting there, and I'm like, oh my God, I have the biggest itch on my leg. I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, and I want to move. I want, it's like everything I can do to not move. And nobody's moving. And I'm like, wait, like, what if I just observe the itch, And I was like, oh, like, that's a concept. And so I let the itch just move around my leg, and then finally go off into the note, And I was like, that was the first time in my whole life I realized I don't have to react to every single thing happening all the time. Like, that to me was a game changer for impulse control and emotional regulation, because I was an addict. Like, I'd go from one addiction to the next, to the next, to the next. And it was like, really just, I was having an itch that I didn't realize I did not have to scratch.
Interesting. So fascinating.
Yeah. Anyway, that just happens.
Taking control back even from, what your body wants you to do. Bodily sensations.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the trigger. And that's the first thing you teach in well, tell us about the Choose Love formula. I won't talk about the choice moment.
Oh, well, yeah. The choice moment is that pause in between what is happening and what you choose to do. And you have two choices. So something happens, and you either react. And as you said, you're reacting without much thought. And sometimes, and that's usually out of habit or memory, habits that don't always serve us, memories that aren't always accurate. And there is the space where you can pause and take, if it's something that's triggering, take a brave breath, which is breathing through your belly, breathing in through your nose for a count of 4, breathing out through your mouth for a count of 6, which stimulates your parasympathetic nervous system, which is really your rest and digest. So it calms you down. I don't think that there's anything that you could do that would calm you down quicker than actually just breaths, which is really cool. And which is why the brave breath is the favorite thing of our whole program. And then it's curiosity. It's curiosity. It's like, what? Okay, so what's going on here with my body? That itch. And what is it really an itch? Is it a bug bite? Is it, is it just, the fabric on my leg? Like, what's going on? And am I able to move through this itch, or do I really have to respond to it? And just that curiosity, which, by the way, curiosity is the greatest sign of intelligence, is shifting your brain. It's moving the information from coming out of your fear center to your prefrontal cortex, where logic and reasoning reside, where your executive functioning is, where the brake on your instinctual reactions is. And this is where you choose love as a thoughtful response. And can you imagine a world that knew to do that knew when they got triggered? Especially online, like, you wouldn't just rattle off something, that you're going to regret later, that's going to be on there forever. Or like the email that I wrote yesterday, right? That I immediately thought, oh, I would have said that differently. I tell other people not to do that. I just did it, right?
I know. Yeah. Yeah. 90 seconds is the time it takes stress hormones to cycle through the body. But that's what I mean. Like, we know it, and we practice it. We all practice it. We're all compassionate and kind in the process. It doesn't, just because you know it doesn't mean you do it all the time. It's like,
it's true. And you forget that you have a choice. And that's the thing. It's like, I think maybe I thought, I don't remember, but I must have thought, oh, so I'm going to learn these skills and tools because I didn't have them as an adult. My parents didn't teach me. I didn't learn them in school. I didn't learn them in a lifetime of working. So I'm going to kind of learn these and I'm going to be like mastering them. Right. And then I'm going to go around and I'm going to teach. And it's like, no, no, no. I will never master these essential life skills because life throws us curveballs and actually which are opportunities to practice the skills, but they're different every day. Sometimes some of the same, and you can rewire your brain and it comes easier, but then there are other situations that are different and you have the skills though. You just pull them out and you go, okay, which ones do I use now? I've got the skills though, and I know what this can look like, and I can thoughtfully respond from the highest and best version of myself. I don't have to be reactive. I am in control, self-control, and not this person that's, acting out of fear or pain or whatever. I'm in control.
Yeah. Yeah. I think one of the coolest things I've ever heard from a youth that was in our program is like he learned about his upstairs and downstairs brain and how to notice when he was in his downstairs brain and like what to do in that. But not only that, he learned like when his brother was in his downstairs brain and he could see from his brother when his brother was in his downstairs brain. And then he knew not to engage with his brother, not to egg him on, because if he did, it would just escalate into this blow up. And I was like, that is so insightful for this like 12-year-old, just knowing that and then having that skill. So like knowing when we're activated, but also when other people are activated and how we can be kinder and more compassionate. Like I see people running around right now in fear, just fear driving all these decisions, anger driving all of these decisions. And it's like, I'm noticing so clearly when they're in that downstairs brain, and I used to want to fix it all. And like not doing anything is sometimes how you not engaging in that activated state is how you, or learning how to de-escalate, just super important.
And not judging because,
right.
We've all been there, and you have a greater understanding though. And some people have to learn lessons on their own. They're not going to listen anyway. And they don't want to put in the work that it takes. I mean, it is effort to thoughtfully respond with love and to have hope. It's effort every day. Happiness is effort every day. And it's our response, my responsibility for my happiness. It doesn't come from outside me. I am not a victim of somebody that's making me unhappy. And once you realize that, and then you know what to do every single day, and you don't always do it, and but you know what to do at least. And these kids that are growing up with the Shine Hope program and with the Choose Love for Schools program, they're going to have these skills. They're going to realize that, and having them taught at school gives them a space where they can not only learn but practice and reinforce these skills. And great parents, if you're out there and you're going, I know all this and I teach my kids and I model it for them, that is so awesome. That's the best. I didn't do that as a mom of two boys because I didn't have that awareness. I can't give what I didn't have. But if you are, that's awesome. But I guarantee you that there are kids in your child's classroom that don't have these skills and tools, and for your child's safety, for the culture of the classroom and the school and eventually the community and world, you want these kids to all have these skills and tools. I mean, it behooves your child and you.
Yeah, absolutely. And, in talking about, like, you and I both came at this, and I'll just say too, one of the things I love about you is that I can like wake up at 6 a.m. on a Sunday morning and be like, oh my God, this article, root cause, like all the stuff. And we can just go on and on about really understanding, because you and I both are so interested in the root cause, like what is causing this?
Right.
We have so many people that are dealing with these issues. Like we solve them by putting in security, devices or making more police or less police, or, just addressing the problem at time of crisis. Same thing with suicide, and why I really got involved in the Hope work. It's like so much was suicide crisis intervention, and to truly prevent something, you want to get to upstream. And so, like, people think, I love Hope, why do we even care about this? Why is this even important? This is a soft skill, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But like, when you really look at the science, and I look at the science of hopelessness a lot. I think you do a lot with fear, and that, am I right? And then maybe love. It's so important to teach these skills. And the reality is, and we know that kids need at least one trusted adult in their life. And we have teachers that are like, half of our kids can't identify one trusted adult in their life.
Is that true? Is it half?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what our teachers have kind of self-reported. I don't know that they've ever done.
Teachers self-reported?
Teachers say, yeah, teachers report the kids in their classroom, because we tell the teachers to be that trusted adult for the child if they can't identify anyone. And teachers said, half of my kids say, no, I don't have a trusted adult. And it's like, okay, we want school safety, and our kids don't have anyone in their lives that they can trust. Like, we can't solve school safety until we address that, until we address teaching these skills. All of the work, like, on the security stuff and the interventions and the 800 and all the hospital, like all the things, like, will never get resolved if we don't address these core issues.
I mean, you said it true too with suicide. Like, there's suicide interventions once the behavior has gotten critical, but and that's necessary. But and it's almost like the school safety efforts. It's like substance abuse. It's like mental illness. It's like, we wait until there's a problem. It's obvious. And then we have interventions. But what Catherine and I are doing in our organizations, the Shine Hope Company and the Choose Love movement, is to focus on the root cause. So what causes the suffering that leads to mental illness, substance abuse, suicide, school shootings, violence, bullying, and then giving kids the skills and tools to manage that grievance before it escalates. And for me, after Jesse was murdered in his first grade classroom at Sandy Hook, I was like, okay, first of all, what we're doing isn't working. It was not the first school shooting, and we've had hundreds since. So, doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result. That's the definition of, I forget, is it crazy? So, I'm looking at the pathway to violence, and I'm like, okay, billion-dollar industry on school safety. And that's great. But who is focusing on the grievance end of the pathway to violence per the Department of Homeland Security? Doesn't it make sense to, and I had been saying a quarter of our resources, that's time, energy, and money, to focus on the grievance end or the root cause. And so that's what we're doing. We're giving kids the skills and tools they need to manage the pain that we know that they're going to face, that we faced. We don't know exactly what kind of pain they're going to face, but we know that they're going to face physical, mental, and emotional pain because they're human beings, and giving them skills and tools to move through it and beyond it, and learn and grow from it.
Yeah. And understand the biological reason that they make bad decisions when they're in that, in that pain. So important. So critical. I look,
kids and adults, and adults. It's the same. Right. It's the same thing. Totally.
And I was just going to say, Will Smith, when he did that at the Oscars, when he went up on stage and slapped, it was Chris, right? Chris Rock.
Chris Rock.
Yeah. So you could see the moment that he went into his downstairs brain. Like, you could see it, the look he got, downstairs brain, no access to any critical thinking. Again, 90-second physiological flooding of adrenaline, cortisol, norepinephrine. You have no awareness.
If he had just been able to pause you know?
I mean, and I can guarantee you, he'd never been taught. He never probably still doesn't understand the physiology of what was happening in that 90-second stress response. And then
he just knows he regrets it, and it was a bad choice.
Bad choice. And he thinks it was like a choice, but we don't necessarily, if we're not, we're not in our right mind. And so when we notice our body going into that state, and this happened with my dad all the time, where you could see his flooding, you could see the flooding of stress hormones in his body. He wasn't aware. You couldn't talk to him rationally. If he had been taught that he had the ability to regulate that and what to do to de-escalate that, you can feel it in your body as you start to get activated. And you can, as you said, that brave breath, you can de-escalate. Your heart rate variability starts to drop when your stress response is activated. And breathing is the one thing that will immediately improve your heart rate variability and decrease your stress response. And again, there's the biology to it. So take all the shame away from it, because we're never taught the biological mechanism that happens and how long it takes to cycle through. And these kids are in prison, and they're in prison, and they don't understand why they keep making the same decisions. But they're not making decisions from their rational mind. They're making decisions from an activated place where they can't access their thinking. And they don't know that. They didn't know that. They were never taught that. And yet we wonder, it's just so frustrating to me. And again, then I use my frustrating to get to work, to make my programs better, or to, get it in more school.
Purpose, pain into purpose. And Catherine, you didn't share your story, and you're referencing your beloved father. Will you share why you're doing this? Why you're focusing, why you've dedicated your life to this?
Yeah. And I mean, I'm going to probably get emotional because I just realized I didn't realize this for the first time. I realized for the first time the connection, because I was thinking about beloved Jesse and him writing on the chalkboard, before he was murdered. And what's it? Nurturing, healing, love, right? Which started this movement. And my dad sent me a final note, and I'll read it at some point. And I had shared it once before, but pretty much put me on this mission. I mean, saying like, I hope you never experience the kind of pain, and used the word hope in it, and used also happiness in it. And it's, to me, that was my dad directing me, as he was a very strong human being, very strong director, and he was passionate and ambitious, and loved me and celebrated life. He was like the most engaging, amazing dad, and then also had this very, hard side to him. Again, a stress response, and he died by suicide, when I was 18. And it was so painful for me. I was so close to him, and I remember thinking, like, who was gonna be there? And then I think about that note, and my dad was really close with Sam Walton, and I know, you have connections there. And Sam was like, solve a problem. If you see a problem sign, Sam would wake up every day and just keep solving a problem. Like, probably never imagined what he would build. But I feel like my dad instilled that in me, and that work ethic and that drive, and that, my dad loved Sam so much, and he admired him so much. And my dad was like that too. He was a brilliant businessman, and a retail banker, and taught me retailing at a young age. And so, when I started looking into hopelessness being the single consistent predictor of suicide, and I had my own suicide attempt as well in my 20s, and was told by doctors I was at high risk of suicide, it set me on the journey to figure it out, and finding, hopelessness being, in my understanding, root cause, and learning what it is, and then going, wow, when you look at hopelessness, emotional despair, so you sad, anger, fear, and a sense of helplessness, like, I can't do anything. Like, we all feel that all the time. And it's the collision of those two things. And like, there are moments I like turn on the news. I'm like hit with a moment of hopelessness. I get cut off from all the things, and it's just all unconscious. So it's about making it conscious, then learning how to navigate. But yeah, I mean, my dad sent me on my journey without a doubt, and Jesse sent you on your journey.
Yeah.
I think without a doubt, and you're like such a strong, passionate mama bear, and doing amazing work to, again, solve the problem long before it even becomes a problem, to save lives ultimately.
Yeah, it's a little bit different way of thinking. It's not the way that we're wired to think. We're wired to focus on the problem, and that's what we do. And for obvious reasons, for survival reasons, we do that. But it's always interesting to me when I see messaging or names of conferences. I'm actually thinking of some specific examples, even programs that are focusing on the problem. They actually have the problem in the title. And it's so interesting to me because, once you realize that we have this negative bias that impacts the vast majority of our thoughts every day, it's impacted what we've chosen to research, our messaging that we have in communities, and you start to see it. You start to hear it in maybe your own thoughts and conversations. You start to hear it in other people. Then you start to read it and see it around you, and you think, "Wow, okay, so this is so negative, and people don't even realize it."
Oh no, yeah. Like I can't unsee hopelessness now. Like I see people like in the conversation. It's just we're just trained. Like we're constantly focused on our negative emotion and like because of what someone else is doing, which keeps us. We can't control other people, so we stay in that state of hopelessness. And I'm like, to me, it's like you just rewire your brain to get to hope, So yeah, it's
when you say just rewire your brain, I mean it takes
exactly.
But this beautiful brain that through neuroplasticity we can rewire with every different choice that we make. You go through life, and if you wake up and you're usually like, oh my God, I can't, so much to do. I don't want this day to start. And you lay there for a second, you pause and you go, you know what? I know there's somebody out there that didn't wake up this morning, and I did, and I'm grateful. And I'm going to start my day off today with gratitude. You are rewiring your brain towards love and away from hope and away from fear. And you're doing it. And that's as easy as it is. But you see that took just a moment of conscious thought, of a little bit of effort to do things a little bit differently. And it's such a better way to live. It feels better.
Yes. And it produces those happy hormones in healthy ways,
Yes, the happiness quartet, that you get your dopamine that otherwise you would be getting like this, not IRL, not in real life, not connection.
You know what I heard too. I mean, I like just recently there's a great, I think it was the Huberman's podcast, but he talks about anytime you don't have to work for your dopamine, your oxytocin, your serotonin, your endorphins, anytime you don't have to make effort to get them, it's not real. Like it's fake, it's unhealthy.
Ooh,
you have to work for it first.
Okay.
Get real. That's going to be beneficial and helpful for you.
What about when you get at like a quart of Ben and Jerry's out of there? You have to get a clean spoon, and you mean that kind of working, or
sugar hit? Gotta love it. I mean, it's all about moderation. So.
Not that I have that in my freezer or anything, and not that I'm thinking about it. I just thought I'd ask.
Just asking for a friend, right?
Yeah, for a friend.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I know we don't have long today, but we're starting a show we're going to do a monthly live stream on the first Tuesday of every month. I think at 4 Eastern time. We're not totally sure, but I think it's about then. And Pato will be on as well. And we're just going to talk about the work we're doing on love, hope, and compassion around the world. Pato is an amazing musician. He is super cool.
He has an incredible story, just an absolutely amazing story of what he's overcome. And then the things that he's done in the world are just fantastic. We can't wait to share him with you. We love him so much.
I know. We do. Absolutely. So yeah, really excited for that. So would love for all of you to join us. And, you know, if nothing else, a time for me to connect with Scarlett and Pato every month, because I just love the work you're doing. I learned so much from you. I admire and respect you so much. I appreciate you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And yeah, you can measure your love, hope, and compassion, and you can get better at it, and other people can get better at it. And I suggest, you know, but we work on ourselves. You know, the better we are, the more we model the behavior, the better we become as humans together, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And keeping each other accountable, you know, calling each other out. That's a loving friendship. And, you know, you don't have, I don't know. I don't have a lot of those, you know, I have friends that I'll call. I have friends, you know, and I love them so much, but not a lot of them that are going to call me out, especially as a bereaved parent. I think everybody's afraid to hurt my feelings, which on one hand is kind of nice, but on the other hand, you know, it doesn't do a whole lot to push me forward.
Yeah. And then movement forward and what you want to be doing, you know, and what I want to be doing. And I want that same, you know, that same, push.
I mean, we have one life to live, and you and I know that so much, and we're aware of it every day. And we just want to be the best versions of ourselves. And I mean, I believe that's why we're here. And it takes effort, and a reminder too. Like, you are not the same person that you were yesterday. You're not the same person that you were when you woke up. You're a different person. You've had experiences. You've had reactions and responses and thoughts, and you've interacted with different people who have brought different things. And so just remember that you are constantly learning and growing, and hopefully strengthening yourself. And I know personally, when I lay my head down on the pillow and I have really just rolled up my sleeves in life that day, and just, I feel like wringing it out, you know, like a towel, got as many drips of life out of it and experiences as possible, then I sleep well.
Yes, me too. Exhausted.
Always.
No, from a full and engaging day. So amazing. Well, I'm grateful for anyone that listened in, and I encourage you to check out the Choose Love movement if you haven't. We should have links in
we should. It's chooselovemovement.org. Can I put them in the, should I join the chat, or I don't know how to do it.
We've never.
Okay. chooselovemovement.org. Catherine?
Yes. theshinehopecompany.com.
Yeah.
.org.
Would love to hear from you. Help us spread the message.
Yes.
And, you know,
tell
a friend. I'm sure that you know a friend that could use this information. Your kids' schools, these are both programs that go into schools, into homes and communities. Help us spread the word. This is a different way of thinking. It's a proactive, preventative way of thinking. We want to reduce the suffering before it becomes an issue. And the earlier, the better. So help us spread this message, because it is our responsibility what this world is. You know, we're not victims, and anybody who's listening is not a victim. It is our responsibility. So
yeah, absolutely.
And positive action is the opposite of anxiety.
Totally. Absolutely. Yes. Love it. Good. All right. Thank you all for joining, and we will see you in a month.
Bye.
Bye.